and welcome to Dan and Ian Have Questions. Are you interested in people's unique hobbies, passions, and how it all gets started? Well, you're in the right place. These two, like many of you, know a little bit about a lot and always have questions. Let's sit back, relax, and enjoy as they find out what makes everyone so interesting. This is the Dan and Ian Have Questions podcast.
Hey, everybody, this is Dan.
And Ian.
And we have questions.
This week, we have artist, entertainer, and self-proclaimed Grand Poobah of the Norse Legion, which is a pop culture apparel jewelry company, and also the premier pagan nerd outlet. How are you doing, sir?
Pagan nerd outlet. I like that. I think I'm going to have to add that to either the website or at least my business cards. What was it? Pagan nerd outlet?
Yep.
Yes, I don't want to say, but go to Norse Legion and look at the about page. Somebody typed that in there. They were smarter than I.
Oh, I wrote that a long time ago.
See, I love it. He's like, oh, okay, man, so that's awesome.
So you're saying I'm complimenting my own work. Okay.
I know,
yes.
Right, yeah.
I do that. Yes. I do that pretty often, actually. I wrote that. Gosh, the company's it'll be 10 years old in March.
Wow.
So.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. So, but the website I think came a couple years later. But yeah, so that was probably 5-6 years ago.
Well, can you just give folks listening, just tell them a little bit about yourself, how you would explain your career and what you do for a living?
Well, I'm trained as an artist. I have an MFA in illustration from the University of Connecticut, and before that I was in the Army. So go Army, beat Navy this weekend. That game is this weekend on Saturday. I worked in real estate as a graphic design artist, making like billboards and ads and floor plans and things like that. And then, I was always into Star Wars and drawing Star Wars. And I went to grad school and realized I wasn't as good enough artist as Ryan Church or any of those other guys that work for Lucasfilm. So I was like, I have to think of something else to do. But in a little bit of an answer to your question, I went to Celebration 4 in 2007. And I had never been in a convention like that. I went to a show like at a hotel with Leonard Nimoy when I was a kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'd never been to a show that had like 40,000 people or even 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And this was wall-to-wall Star Wars. It just had booth after booth of just all sorts of Star Wars artwork and everything. There was floor mats and dishes and gun cleaning kits and just anything you can think of about kits. You could put Star Wars on was on this. And it was like there was like $20 million worth of merchandise in this room. And I was just like, I am in the wrong freaking business. I'm like, what am I doing? I should do this. And it was about it was that November. It was that November, the first convention I ever went to as an artist, where I actually had artwork being sold at a show. So that was May to November, whatever that is, like 7 months. And so that's kind of where it started. And then I just started doing a little bit more and a little bit more. And then I got some good advice, I got some bad advice, but I got like good advice from Steve Sansweet. He was pretty early on in my career as far as pushing me where to go to get, to go down the avenue and start doing more and more Star Wars stuff. So does that answer your question? I kind of
yeah. Well, I kind of, we know you. I mean, I don't know what Dan would say, but it's like, I think I first met you through like the Rebel Force radio, Force Cast maybe at the time. And also I listened to a show called Star Wars in Character.
Oh yeah. Those
yes.
Crazy nuts.
Yeah. Suck it, Tim. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, I learned about you through like the trivia on there and being on the Force Cast. So, I mean, Dan, how did you first come to hear about Kevin?
I think it really was through the RFR. Especially Kevin Leill was known for the trivia, and you would come on, especially like during when they had the pre-events of Celebration. You would go on there and
the meetups,
or you would actually have a panel during the conventions where you would do trivia. And I think
I did it for 3 celebrations starting in 2010.
Right.
And that was, I just thought like a Star Wars Trivia World Championship made sense to me.
Right.
And I figured it would work really well at Celebration. And when I came up with the idea, I had a logo that went with it. And I had Bosk in the logo as the thinker. Bosk is sitting as the thinker. You know, you're thinking and Bosk. But the reason I chose Bosk out of the 400 or 500 Star Wars characters, thousands of Star Wars characters, was because Mary Franklin, who was the head of event planning at Lucasfilm at the time, her favorite Star Wars character was Bosk. So I figured if I sent her a portfolio, a suggestion of what I wanted to do, and that was the cover, it would get her attention. And it worked. She contacted me within an hour of the email I sent to her.
Right. Holy.
Not only that, she told New York Comic Con, she's like, let him do it there too, because they had just gotten the license with Reed Pop. Mm-hmm. And so I did it a couple times at New York Comic Con as well. And yeah, so that's how that came about. And that was the first time I ever did it was in 2008 at a smaller show up in Boston. Are you familiar with Super Mega Fest?
Yes, I am. I'm absolutely. Yep.
That was the first show I ever stood in front of an audience. The first time I ever sold anything as far as art related to Star Wars was at that show. And then so I did it there for like 1 or 2 years, and then brought it to Celebration, and it worked really well. I mean, I don't know if either one of you attended, but we had 1,200 people in the room, and that's a lot of Star Wars fans.
While you were talking about Bosk, I went, "Oh my God, I have him within arm's reach." So yeah, I was sitting here holding him up.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, a little bit. So it's blurry. I gotta hold it in front of my face.
Yep, there it is. So what was the spark that started Norse Legion? Like how did that come about? Like what was the kernel, the seed that started that whole thing?
Well, long story short, I worked for Topps, and I did some stuff at convention. I did some stuff at New York Comic Con as far as product wise. And then when Disney bought Lucasfilm, a company here in Connecticut, I won't say their name, but they reached out to me and said, "Can you come on board?" They hired a headhunter or something, and they asked if I could come on board and work with them. And they were only 2 towns away, so it was really fortunate. And then I helped them get the jewelry license. I have one on me right now. That was one of the first pieces. I mean, I don't know if you can see that clearly.
Yeah, it's a Darth Vader, like all black.
Is it Vader?
It's a Darth Vader. Yeah, I tried to get it to match the Return of the Jedi Vader as best I could.
Okay, all right.
I figured that would interpret well as a piece of jewelry.
I mean, Kevin is a large man. If you get hit by him, you're gonna already be hurt. But if he has the Darth Vader ring, that's gonna leave. That's stuck in there. You could do a plaster cast.
Anybody, but,
that's like his Phantom ring, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Slam evil, everybody.
So anyway, I designed for the company, and I was paid whatever I was paid while I worked there, but I could make a heck of a lot more selling the stuff. So I created Norse Legion as just a convention based show. So I'd have a booth at New York, and I'd have a booth at Celebration. We'd set up a 10x10 booth and sell the jewelry and stuff that we made, money clips and whatever else we can come up with, all of it Star Wars, of course. And then so that's where Norse Legion started. And then during the pandemic is when I finally decided to make it into a website, and it's been great. But it's been overwhelming. I'm not a businessman. As far as managing the company, I'm freaking terrible. I'm passably good at creating products and stuff like that, but the organization is not easy. I should hire somebody, but I'm cheap.
Yeah. Well, so the impetus for, you're an artist and you wanted to be an artist. You went to school to be an artist. What was the first thing that got you into? What do you think was the starting point for your love of the arts?
My love of what?
Love of the arts.
Love of the arts. Well, I started drawing Star Wars in the summer of '77, and I was drawing Star Wars about 15 minutes before I contacted you guys this afternoon.
Nice.
So that's what's my math here? 45 years. I've been drawing Star Wars. That's almost all of what I've done as Star Wars related. No, I mean, even before I did it business wise, when I was in high school and I was in the Army and stuff like that, I was always, just drawing Star Wars stuff, and I've always been an artist, and I've done things outside of Star Wars, and they never succeed very well. But I do have other interests, I guess, as far as drawing. But yeah, I've been an artist my whole life since I was like 3 years old, and then Star Wars came out when I was 5, and then I just remember as a kid I would draw it all the time, and I have some art pieces probably as old as the 90s. That's about as old as I have. I don't have anything from an earlier time period, unfortunately.
Right. And I've noticed that as the Norse Legion has like developed, you essentially create what you know, and you made a lot of combat patches and
medals.
medallions.
I got one of them
medals,
over here.
yeah, medals, awards, and all that stuff. Like what was the start of all that? Was it like you created the Norse Legion so you could do something like that, or was it like something that started it there? And what has been the reception, the deception for that, the reception of everyone around there, veterans and other people?
Well, the medal came about probably because of my career in the military,
right?
And I as every celebration, including the one that's happening in London in April, I started milling around ideas of what's good for that show. And as you can imagine, there'll be a lot of British and English-based artwork and some things that we're doing, patches and a pin right now. And I'm sure we'll do some other stuff. But that was the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back, was the impetus for that. The very first medal, which was the Battle of Hoth, the victory. I felt that the rebels had their little battle at Yavin, and they got their medal. I thought the snowtroopers and the Adak drivers and whatever deserved a medal for what they did on Hoth, which was a brilliant victory against a terrorist group that deserved it. I'm pro Empire. I'm not going to hide that at all. So anyway, I felt that they needed something. So that was going to be for Celebration, and the idea was that the back of it was going to say, Star Wars Celebration 2020. And then I'm sure you guys heard about this. There was this huge pandemic, and not trying to make light of it, but that convention was canceled, obviously. And I said, you know what? It's a really good design. I like it a lot. I'll just make it anyway. So it came out the day that Celebration was going to originally happen in August of 2020. I think it was like August 25th or something like that.
Yeah, it was at the end.
And it was really successful, and it is to this day is the fastest selling item we've ever made. It even outdoes the Guinness Pint Class, which is I've sold more of those because that's very popular, but never in that short amount of time period. That a couple of weeks we sold 1,000 of them. But
oh wow,
it was pretty. I was on Martha's Vineyard when they started selling, and I was like very happy.
You're like, give me another glass.
Yeah,
because Martha's Vineyard was very expensive, and it was selling really well. And my web developer called me up, and he's like, "Dude, you seeing this?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Yeah."
So why don't you tell us like the process of actually creating one of the pieces that you might have? Like, do you already do you look at do you do research and look at other medals and just kind of like somehow develop it to make it look like very Star Warsy, or do you try to create a story while you make this stuff? Like you were saying that you always wanted to have a medallion for the victory of Hoth. Like do you have some kind of process when you do something like
that? That one was done towards me sitting down for like a year, starting from Chicago in 2019. Thinking about what should I do for Celebration in 2020. Obviously, it needs to be Empire Strikes Back. And I try to see it as things like, The Empire Strikes Back has Yoda, Luke, and Boba Fett and Vader. And those things kind of stick out a lot. And I kind of like to do things that are a little undertone. And, much like the shirt I'm wearing, this is a Grand Moff Tarkin shirt.
Right.
And it's available at NorseLegionStore.com. But anyway, it's kind of underneath, it's subtle. It doesn't scream Star Wars.
Yes.
And if someone's not a Star Wars fan, they're not going to get it. I kind of like things like that.
Right.
And I like characters that are a little underused in products. And that's when I started figuring the Snowtrooper. And then somewhere between the end of Chicago and like Christmas time, the idea of doing a snowtrooper medal popped in my head. And I'm currently working on a project right now for Celebration in London, and we haven't released it to the public yet. So I'll tell you guys first what it is. It's Wicket the Ewok. It's a patch, and it's him dressed like Paddington Bear.
Oh, perfect.
And I just
That's
thought,
amazing.
you know, that was really good. And a lot of these ideas come from literally thin air. They'll just pop into my head. I'll tell you, actually, while I was at GalaxyCon this last weekend in Ohio, I was eating a Pop-Tart, and then an idea for something for Star Trek popped into my head. And then I immediately called a guy who buys a lot of Star Wars stuff for my company, but he's also big into Star Trek. I'm like, hey, I got this idea. And he's like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then, so these things I'd say 90% of the things I do just pop into my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me sitting down and concentrating. Like the Snowtrooper was, I was kind of racking my head, like, what could we do? And then I thought of that. But even that, something just popped in my head.
Right.
But the Paddington Ewok, that just came out of nowhere.
That's going to be perfect.
Alec Guinness
Collectible.
pint glass just came out of nowhere. I was just driving somewhere, and I was actually doing work for Chris Mocht. I think you guys said you knew Chris Mocht.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
We've had him on here.
Halfway house with him or something like that. Anyway, he's I was doing some work for him on his second documentary, and then the Guinness idea popped in my head during that, and I was like, wow, that's a great idea. And you know, I was like driving home, and I was thinking about what I was doing for Chris, and then the Guinness thing popped in my head, and it went swimmingly.
So what would you call because you have a certain art style, like is there something that you derive from as far as like inspiration from a certain area?
You would like,
you know what, I've always thought my art's kind of like all over the place, and I think that's one of the things that even as a painter I kind of fail at, is the consistency in the art that I create. That like maybe the head doesn't look like the left side of the head doesn't look like the right side of the head, or the detail in the chest is much more than what's in the pant area or something. I always thought that consistency was my biggest failure actually as an artist. So my style is inconsistent. You know, some people can see my art somewhere and they'll be like, oh, I recognize that's Kevin's, and so I guess in that sense I do have some sort of consistency. But does that answer your question? It's a really
that pretty much is it, because you do have a distinct, there's something in there that you know that you do. Of course, it's your hand, it's your idea, it's coming from your brain, so of course you're going to have a certain flair for it. But because it does kind of vary. You'll do quick graphics sometimes. I think you'll throw up of something like, hey, like something just happened, and it's like you have an idea a couple hours later and you've made a joke about it, you know, or a cartoon, or like, hey, coming soon, blah blah blah. I forget. I think it was what was the one that you did? It was Chris Farley. You know, you're in a van down by the river. What was?
Oh, that was I just saw a picture of him doing that motivational speaker. What's his name?
It's like Matt Farling or something.
Matt Foley.
Yeah. Foley. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And then, you know, in a van down by the river, and I just thought, like, boy, that would be funny as Porkins. And so I drew it as Porkins. And then once I had the art for Porkins, I can immediately just a couple keystrokes change the colors and the shape, and then it became Thrawn. And I think the Thrawn one was more popular. I think it said like in a Chimera down by the river.
Right.
Timothy Zahn has seen that. I showed that to Timothy once.
Oh, nice.
He thought that was funny. I've interviewed him several times. He's a really, really good guy.
Well, that's funny that you say that. I kind of want to pivot a little bit, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about, you know, you go to these conventions and you work for your company, the Norse Legion, in their booth. How did you get started actually interviewing the guests that were actually going to the conventions? Like, where did that started happening, and like, who have you interviewed before?
So many people, so many great
right?
I've interviewed 80 Star Wars actors and about 40 non-Star Wars actors.
Wow.
So I've done a lot, and a lot of those 80 I've done multiple times. I've done, you know, some of them are good friends of mine, like Spencer Wilding. I interviewed him twice in San Antonio this summer.
He's most famously Darth Vader in was it Rogue One? Was that?
Yeah, he was Darth
Yes.
Vader in Rogue One. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
He's got a new movie coming out. I forgot what it's called. I think maybe he couldn't tell me because it's one of those, hush hush things.
Yeah.
Um,
NDAs until they come out.
but how I got into that, I think I just well, like I said, the first time I appeared in front of an audience, I was doing a trivia contest, and that kind of got me acclimated to being in front of a room full of Star Wars fans.
Right.
And then what was my first interview? Actually, surprisingly, was New York Comic Con.
That's one way to start.
That's a weird place to start.
Yeah, it is.
Because most of my shows, actually, every single show I've ever done is smaller than New York Comic Con. But my first panel was with Anthony Forst, who's a friend of mine. And again, it was Mary Franklin. Mary Franklin said, let Kevin do the interview. And Reed Pop was like, yeah, whatever, whoever you want. Mm-hmm. And I probably should have stuck with that because Reed Pop is literally about 15 miles in that direction right behind me.
Yeah, Connecticut. Yeah.
And I probably should have worked on that. And but whatever. So that was my first interview that I did with him. And then I would just reach out to shows and say, this is who I am and what I can do. And that's how I got ICCC down in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a great Star Wars show. Their show this year is the end of May. It's Memorial Day weekend, and that's a great show. Especially if you like collecting, you like Star Wars collecting. That's the place to go because it's 100% Star Wars show. Not 100%, but there's some other things, but.
They've made it like huge this year. They got like a campgrounds and
like a carnival going on, right?
Carnival going on and all kinds of stuff.
Mike, who runs it, he's a great friend of mine. He's really smart. He's really, really bright. And it's just like anybody who does a first year of a show, it's going to lose money. So he did it smart because he did it small. And then he as it got bigger and bigger is when when he really started, I guess putting the money into it to get a bigger place, and now he's got some huge Coliseum or whatever. It's escaping me the name of the place, but it looks really nice. I've seen the pictures of it, and I think it's going to be a great show this year. And he promises it's going to be bigger and better. And last year's show was a blast. I mean, I got to interview Ian McDiarmid.
Right? Yeah.
Oh yes, you had the
big reveal.
Yeah, the big reveal of him returning in
Obi-Wan.
Well, he said my presence will be felt. But
but everybody kind of read between the lines on that one.
I was amazed that was his answer, that he said that. And that was pretty cool. And the funny thing is that he got scheduled to be at that show like a year before, real early. And Mike told me that Ian was coming. And he knows I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to keep it a secret. But then, of course, the first thing out of my mouth is like, hey, I'm going to do the interview, right? And then he was like, "Oh God, now you're going to bother me for another year until you do it."
It's just called blackmail,
which was good. Well, it's not. I wouldn't blackmail. I don't want to lose my spot with it. But it's a great show, and it's very fan friendly. Mm-hmm. It's easy access, and it's not like confusing. And if it's not one of these enormous shows like New York Comic Con. Like if you have a problem, there's a website you can log on to or something like that. There's a problem at ICC. There's a person you can go talk to.
Right.
And they will take care of your problems if you had one. Mm-hmm. And it's just a fun show. I love that show, and I'm looking forward to it. So I reached out to him when his show was just starting, and I said to him, I can do a trivia contest, I can host some panels, I can do some artwork. All of his patches and some of his T-shirts and stuff like that have all been designed by me. As a matter of fact, I was going back and forth with him today on Texas about some design work for this year's show. Mm. So I kind of I bring a lot to the plate, I guess, as far as like I'm basically your free designer, and I'm going to give you a good product because I want you to have me back.
Right.
And then I think I'm pretty good at hosting. I don't get like tongue tied and starstruck, with the celebrities. I'm pretty good at making sure I don't ask, inappropriate questions, and I'm not interested in salacious stuff like that. I just want to have a good interview,
right,
and talk about some fan stuff, and then you go in and you're not nervous. I interviewed Ewan McGregor this summer in San Antonio.
Yeah. Tell us about that. That's that should be interesting.
I was at a show. Long story short, I decided not to vend at Celebration because it's 3,000 miles away. Mm-hmm. I had MegaCon the week before, and I'm like, I can't do both shows. So I decided to do MegaCon and then just go to Celebration as a fan, which was a great idea because I got to see and do everything.
Right.
I think I went to every panel. I got, if you look behind me, I got my pass right here, which is an AT-AT. Yep. It says it's got an AT-AT on it, and I got it signed by Phil Tippett.
Whoa!
Oh,
so if I had a booth, I might not have been able to do that.
Right, exactly.
And so the week after Celebration was another show, and I'm like, to make up for the fact that the company didn't make money at Celebration, maybe I should do this other show. And I went to the show in Washington D.C. called Awesome Con, and some guy came up to my booth with his wife, and he's like, "Hey, I got a show in San Antonio that'll have some Star Wars guests if you want to go." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. San Antonio's pretty far away, and that's why I didn't do Celebration." And he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna have Ewan McGregor there." That got my attention. And I'm like, "Oh, you're that show that has Ewan McGregor." And then I said, "Do you have a stage host?" And he's like, "Yeah, we do." And I'm like, "Do you have a really good stage host?" And then he goes, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Let me do it." Right. And then like 2 weeks later, he called me up and he's like, "Listen, I decided to give you a chance and see how you do." And so he hired me to do that panel. And I asked him, after we signed a contract and he bought the flights, whatever. I asked him, and he goes, he just said he liked my voice, and that was, he goes, "I had a good speaking voice." So he's like, I thought that was cool, and it's a great show, and Superhero Car Show and Comic-Con in San Antonio is happening in the beginning of August this year, and I would strongly recommend that show too because that's going to have a lot of Star Wars guests. And he had like 5 or 6 last year, one of which was Ewan McGregor, Giancarlo Esposito. It was a really great show, but as far as interviewing Ewan, it was I had the questions had to come beforehand, and I had to be vetted and things like that. So there was a little. So I remember going out on the stage. I'm like, if I screw this one up, talking to Alan Harris or Jeremy Bullock is fun, but it's not going to end my career if I do something wrong.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Wrong with this one, and it's the door's closed. We're not doing this anymore.
Right.
But I know it went really well. It was a really great panel. Rupert Friend was part of the panel as well, who of course is the Inquisitor from Kenobi.
Right.
And it was it was fun. It was a great event. And hot as heck, though. Have you been to San Antonio in August?
I've been to Austin in I think it was in June. It was like 10 days in a row they have an over 100-degree weather that we were there that one time.
I used to live in I went to school in El Paso in the Army, so I lived there for 6 months, going to an air defense artillery school, and that wasn't that bad. It was hot, but it wasn't as humid. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy humid in El Paso. I couldn't deal.
Right.
It's crazy.
So in talking about interviewing people, how do you prep? How do you get prepared for an interview?
Yeah, give us some tips, please. Tell us how to do it right.
Do you go on IMDb like we do? Do you go on IMDb and
I do no prep.
Oh,
none whatsoever. I'm not interested in knowing who they are beforehand. Chances are I already do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I like the naturalness of the interview of not knowing who they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're already going to know something because he's Ewan McGregor, but when he throws in something like he used to own an ice cream shop, like, wow, really, an ice cream shop, let's talk about that. And it's just or whatever. Sometimes you can end up asking a question that is obviously I should have known, but that hasn't happened to me yet. Mm-hmm. I like the spontaneity of it. I used to prep and stuff like that, but it got to the point where I was asking questions I knew the answers to.
Right.
I didn't like that. I thought that was kind of boring. And the thing is that if I can look it up and find out, what his first movie was, everybody else could too.
Right.
And, I don't like the average questions like, why'd you become an actor? And, what's your favorite part? I mean, I might sometimes ask questions like that.
Right.
But it's just, I kind of like to keep it real personal.
Like inside the actor's studio, that type of questions. What's your favorite color or something.
Yeah, that guy's good. If I was at his level though, I wouldn't be so like. For instance, when I interview Star Wars actors, they're usually so much ahead of me that I do have to kind of like, be very respectful and act like they're the greatest thing in the world. but what's his name? James Lipton.
Yeah,
he would act like every actor he had is the greatest actor of all time.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're at that level, you can kind of like, call him out for whatever he would never do that.
No,
he would never bring up anything like that. And maybe that's why people did his show. But
yeah.
But yeah, so what answer your question? Yeah, I don't do prep. I don't.
Well, so going like with the cons and stuff, is there like one that sticks out to you the most of like maybe, the best moment, or maybe one that sticks out for being like, man, this was a cluster, but it still worked out?
Yeah, I've done shows where like nobody shows up.
Oh yeah,
They're usually your smaller shows. They're your shows that have like maybe 1 or 2 years under their belt. And it's been like disastrous. Where like no one shows up, and I'm usually fine with it because it's just a lot of times I get my travel and my hotel paid for, so I'm not really losing any money. I feel bad for the people who have like booths and they spend like thousands of dollars to go there, and for whatever reason there's a bad storm or there's another show down the street, or maybe there was a big convention the week before that just sometimes can be disastrous. All right, I'll tell this story. I was one time I was at a show and I was asked to interview Hayden Panettiere, who's from something, I don't know, Heroes or something, and I had no idea who she was. I didn't know anything about her. But about 5 minutes before her panel, the organizer of the show asked if I would do the panel, and I'm like, I don't know anything about her. He's like, with the guy who's supposed to do it's not going to be here. Can you please do it? And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll look her up online and just go from there. And I'll ask a couple softball questions and then turn it to the audience. That's what I'll do. I'll turn to the audience. They'll have questions. And I told the audience that, I was going to open up the questions to make sure your questions are good, to get them prepared. So when I asked them, they'd be on it. So hello, how are you? What are you doing? Blah, blah. I asked her a couple questions. And then I turned to the audience and said, remember, let's make these some good questions. And this one guy had like a sheet of paper in his hand, like this. And I was like, all right, this guy's thinking about it. He's really good. And I was like, and I should have known with the paper in his hand, if something weird was going to happen. And I called on him and he goes, why did you block me from your Facebook page?
Oh my God. You kidding me?
Jesus.
And I looked at her and I was like, well, that is a really interesting question. But apparently he was just some weirdo that's been following her for years.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was actually arrested at the show. Because he'd been more than just annoying on Facebook. He was a really bad person. So
jeez.
An answer to disastrous, that would be disastrous. And I guess the polar opposite, as far as like the best moment at a convention, has to be interviewing David Prowse, Darth Vader. That's you guys know Jimmy Mack, right?
Oh yes, absolutely.
He got me this at Celebration. Look at that.
Hey, they talked about that. That's right.
Story.
He said you freaked.
Right. So Billy Mack, Jimmy's brother, shows up with this thing on, and I'm like, give that to me. Give it to me now. I offered him money. Jason Swank said I offered him shares in my company, and I don't recall that happening, but I do remember offering him. He bought it for $5, and I said I'll give you 20 right now.
Right.
And then Jimmy Mack walked in the room and handed me this. They bought two.
Oh
man,
nice.
I thought because he knows I'm a big Darth Vader fan.
That's nice.
See, I got Darth Vader back there. I got a Darth Vader watch on. I'm drinking out of a Darth Vader.
Oh, you take the ICCC con. I always maybe do one too many C's on that, but the Darth Vader everywhere with you. I see those pictures.
At every convention. Oh, the Darth Vader that has the ICC icon on the back of on his back.
Oh yeah, the squishy Darth Vader.
Yeah.
You know what? And people always ask to buy that. So this year I'm going to see if I can get like 10 of them from Mike Havens, who runs ICCC, and see and sell them at the booth because they seem to be pretty popular.
Yeah.
I just do that to help promote ICCC because that's my favorite con of all the shows I do every year. That's my favorite one. It's it's really well run. It's got the best security team. It's got the best management team. As far as operations goes, it's just really well done. It's a great show, and I strongly recommend it. The guest list is supposed to be coming out
Pretty soon,
relatively
right?
soon. They're just finalizing it now. I mean, it's still 6 months away,
Right.
5.5 months away. But
so
especially you up in Cleveland.
Oh yeah, you got to go.
Yeah, you should go because
Well,
Jason
yeah.
went last year. Jason Swank from Rebel Force Radio went last year.
Yep.
Yeah, well, a bunch of our friends have already planned on it, and they're already going. So it's just me and Dan sitting here going.
Dan's
we're
a little
waiting
farther.
to pull.
Dan, you're gonna have a couple hours on me.
Yeah.
It already takes. I think it's 12 or 13 hours for me to get there.
Well, I'm probably, I don't know. I've been talking to the wife, slowly beating her down to. I plan on going down there to go there.
Have you ever met a girl that did not want to go to Nashville?
I don't
no.
think I've ever been to Nashville myself.
Yeah, I've never been to Nashville. I would love to go to Nashville. So
you know what? Which makes me very lucky. I get to spend a week out of the year every year for the past 5 years in Nashville. I always spend like 2 or 3 days afterwards, and I go. I'm a big history buff, so I like to, when I go on these trips, I like to stop at historical spots. And I'll stop at some in Virginia, and then when I get to Nashville, I'll stop some there.
Right.
And I took Steve Sansweet to what's it called, the Hermitage, which is where Andrew Jackson lived.
Oh wow.
And, him and I spent the day there, and it's just I just like to do things like that. It's pretty cool. But there's other things to do in Nashville. There's their equivalent of Broadway is called Broadway, and they have nice. They have a lot of great restaurants and stuff like that. And when you're like hanging out at these restaurants at 2 a.m. with, I won't say his name, but he's young and he's a fun guy from Star Wars. He's an actor, and going out with him and like 5 or 6 other Star Wars actors, it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's a pretty wild night. And if you go to Nashville,
Daniel Logan,
you might catch us down there on what's called Printer's Alley, which is another hot spot in Nashville.
Nice.
Yeah, so I kind of want to pivot a little bit, and actually, because you were talking about so much about Darth Vader, I was actually wanted to ask you what is in your personal collection. Is it all like Darth Vader themed? Is it all Star Wars themed, or do you have something that's a little bit off than what everybody knows your brand of?
I'm not a focus collector, but I do have a lot of Darth Vader stuff. Obviously, he's the character. He's my favorite character. But I have I got well, you can see behind me. I've got the real robot Jabba the Hutt, Phil Tippett thing.
Oh yes, wow. That one's awesome,
which is pretty cool. And I have I don't know what you can see here. I got my droids, and then I have in my office here. You can see I got 70 something drawings and paintings, and they're all autographed. But look at this one right up here. This is driftwood I found on Martha's Vineyard, and I had it signed by it's Wicket, and I had it signed by
all right,
Warwick Davis.
And is a lot of this stuff that you drew, that you personally drew, and then have them sign? Or
everything in the room is my art, signed by somebody. Now, in some cases, the actor has passed away, so I had to make. Well, like this one. This is signed by Bruce Boa, who's General Riken.
Okay.
And so it's just it's a print from Celebration 2. So I just drew the Rebel base underneath it.
All right.
Nice.
And
is that Jen Erso behind you?
Yes, that is a painting of Jen Erso, and that was signed by her at Celebration 2017, which is that's the one I brought Dennis Lawson to.
That's right. Okay, yeah. I kept on looking at that photo in the back. I thought it was a photo. First off, and I kept on looking back.
Really, it's a photo. Thank you.
So wait, with Dennis Lawson, how did that come about? I mean, we don't want to eat up a bunch of time, I'm having fun chatting.
I like talking about Star Wars, and anytime you can call me, I'm always doing. I haven't done a Zoom call or a web show in a while, like a podcast.
Oh wow!
I guess Jason and Jimmy don't like me anymore. I was supposed to do one with Chris Moss, but I had plans and I couldn't do it. But anyway, so Dennis Lawson, I just figured that. I mean, the real reason I did it was because I figured to get a special guest pass, you have to do something for the show. And I always every celebration since 2010, I've had a special guest pass. And I thought the thing I could do for that show was bring Dennis Lawson. because I knew they were going to have a 40th anniversary panel. I knew George Lucas was going to be there. I knew Harrison Ford was going to be there. I didn't know John Williams was going to be there, but I thought if I brought him, I can do what I want, and which is exactly what happened. But I just called every agent in London and asked if they represented Dennis Lawson, and I was lucky on my third one. They said, yeah, he's one of ours.
Oh wow!
And I said, I offered him $20,000 to come to Celebration with
okay.
no conversation whatsoever from Reed or who was running photo ops at that time.
Was it Official Pics?
No, it was after Official Pics. I
No.
think it was Tops. Yeah, Tops was
Yeah, it
running.
was Tops. It was Tops. Yeah.
And so I had no word or guarantee from them at all. But I mean, come on, it's Dennis Lawson. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Why
right.
wouldn't they want Dennis Lawson? And they got back to me pretty quickly and said, yeah, he'd like to come. Which means now I had to call up Reed and tell them I had Dennis Lawson, and they sent me to a guy named John who worked at Tops. And I said, I have Dennis Lawson who wants to come to your show, and he's like, yeah, we're filled with actors right now. We don't, I'll get back to you, but as of right now, we don't need him. And I was like, wow, that was not what I was expecting. And the next day, he called me back. And he's like, yeah, can we talk to you about Dennis Lawson? He's like, maybe we'll have him. And I was like, stop right there. You went back and talked to somebody who actually knows something about Star Wars.
Yeah.
This guy was a baseball guy, didn't know anything about Star Wars.
Right, of course.
And when he said he can get Dennis Lawson, whoever he spoke to was like, oh my God, do what you can to get him. And we got him. And he pre-sold more tickets than any other person at that celebration, but one person. Only one person sold more than him. Can you guess who that was?
Was it Harrison Ford?
No. I mean,
Harrison
he doesn't
Ford
do what he
wasn't
said.
there.
Yeah. What year was it again? It was 2019, right? You said
2007.
17. So was it
Kinda obvious.
Felicia Jones?
No, Mark Hamill.
No, Mark Hamill. Okay. All right.
Oh wow!
But wasn't Felicia Jones there? Like
Felicia Jones was there, and that's how I was able to get her to sign that.
I thought she was like a huge. She was a huge
Felicity.
That's what it is. Felicity. Yeah.
I'm like, I can't wait. I was like, wait a minute. Bye, Felicia. No, it's Felicity.
Felicity. That's what it is. I'm sorry.
But yeah. So then that's how he got to the show, and it was really cool. He had a really good time, and he hasn't done one since. But he's an actor's actor. He really he prefers to act. And one part I didn't mention in the story is that he wanted to wait like a month before I reached out to Tops and asked him, because he wanted to make sure he didn't have an acting commitment, because to him acting is the most important thing. He doesn't need the money.
Right.
And he didn't have one, so he decided to go.
Yeah. See, that makes sense to me about how much he sold out the pre-sales out of anyone, because like you said, he doesn't really do a lot. He doesn't do any conventions, and this is like such a rare moment that to have him come up here.
It was his first convention ever outside of England.
Right.
It was his first celebration.
Yeah. So
I still have people, I would say several people a year, still come up to me and thank me for bringing him.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're so they were so excited they got a chance to meet him.
Nice. That's awesome.
Tops had those big banners behind the actors when they're signing. You ever see them? They're big, huge banners. It has a picture of the actor and the character or whatever. And I asked the convention, I said, because they were really happy with how much money he made. And I covered his guarantee. They wouldn't do it. And I said, you know what, fine. I have no problem. Because he wanted, he had a couple conditions. Mm-hmm. And they said, for us to meet those conditions, we don't want to do a $20,000 guarantee. I'm like, he's going to make $20,000 before the show starts. And it's Dennis freaking Lawson. And I went to them towards the end of the show, and I was like, can Dennis have the banner? And they're like, well, we like to sell them. I was like, you know how much money he made you this weekend? And I covered your guarantee. Give him the freaking banner.
Right.
And they're like, fine, he can have the banner. And then I went to Dennis, and I'm like, Dennis, do you want this banner? And he's like, no. And I'm like, fantastic. So he signed it for me.
Nice.
And it's in the Norse Legion warehouse. It's the main thing on the wall.
Oh,
I
that's
felt it was a
awesome.
great accomplishment of mine to get him to sign that.
That's awesome. That's great.
Well, hey Dan, do you want to close out here? We'll let him go. Maybe
Absolutely.
ask one of yours, and
All right.
I'll throw one of mine his way.
Absolutely. So, once
You know,
again,
I'm not in any rush. But okay.
yeah. Well, once again, thank you very much, Kevin, for taking time to come on to our show and ask to have us ask you questions about what you do and everything. And what we always do, especially for our audience, is we ask our guests what movie that they should check out, or actually now since we've had a couple of guests come on and make suggest TV shows, because like I was telling you before, that actually the production of TV shows is equal or above some movies that
Yeah.
are out there. Do you have a suggestion that our audience should check out,
A TV show.
or movie?
I think 1883 was pretty good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the prequel to Yellowstone.
Yes.
It's like an 8-episode concise story from beginning to end. And I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty realistic to that time period.
Mhm.
Before I was an artist, my undergrad actually is in history, so that's always been a thing I'm very interested in. And the Star Wars shows I'm not too Mandalorian is great.
Yeah.
But the other ones I think have kind of been written really fast. Kenobi was good too. I enjoyed watching Kenobi.
What did you think of Andor? That's pretty.
Andor, I just didn't understand. I didn't understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to like make something that should be exciting boring. I mean, I don't understand. How can you tell that story and not have action and adventure in it? And then they were clearly trying to say that this is not your father's Star Wars. And they did subtle things like they changed the sound of the blasters for the stormtroopers. It sounds more like a golf cart driving or something. It's just this really low sound.
Okay.
I didn't understand that.
Right.
And the fact, I was fine with the fact they didn't have any Jedi or anything like that. That's they can't be everywhere.
Right.
And it is cool to tell a story, but that doesn't have them. But we already did that with Mandalorian and Boba Fett.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But that part's fine. But it's just the stories. I mean, the first like for instance, they debuted the first 3 episodes in one night, and the reason they did that because the series would have been killed if they just showed the first 2, because the first 2 were long, drawn out, and boring. They were poorly written, they were poorly conceived, and then finally you had a little bit of adventure in the last episode.
Right.
Because it would have killed the show if you had, and I guarantee you, some exec at Disney said you can't do that. Give them some other option, because if you show that first episode, people aren't going to like it. Then they see a week later, they see the second episode, they're going to stop watching.
Right.
And from what I understand, Andor is the lowest rating of all of them. And it's terrible because the cast is really good. It looks really good. It's just the story was slow, I felt.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely for me, the first couple episodes, maybe what are they, arcs or whatever they're classifying them as,
like 3 arcs.
It wasn't up until like maybe an episode or 2, like before the prison or right at the prison, right at that moment, that's when I started getting like actually more pumped, because I think it was like Andy Serkis and the whole tension of what are they doing and all that kind of, that started getting me into it. But then of course the way it ended for me was pretty explosive and cool. But yeah, I was kind of indifferent at first because I like Rogue One, but it wasn't like something that I was pining for more,
Right.
But I don't know. I dig it. I'm waiting for season 2 now. So
yeah, I liked it. It just and I actually was listening to another podcast, and they described it as, there are people, there are width and breadth of Star Wars, and there are people who are all about the breadth. So the breadth is always the action, the high adventure, the Jedi and all the space battles. But you also have to remember there's the width of Star Wars, and I feel that Andor was looking at Star Wars at a different angle, more like ground level than what we're all used to. And I understand why people have a problem with that, because it's just all the when it comes to like when you look at a painting of everything of Star Wars, everybody likes looking at the bright lights and the action and everything like that. But there's like sometimes there's some interesting things in the background, and I feel like that's what Andor was doing, was actually showing the things that were happening behind the scenes, the background, the people who are, how the sausage was made in a sense. And
But maybe the execution was.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But I mean, I enjoyed it, and that's what I liked about it. I like the slow. I like the thought of it. The thinking of how the rebellion was created. It's not always a flash bang. Sometimes it's a slow burn, and I feel like
that's another thing I didn't like. I'd always felt that the rebellion was built up of other planets using their military. Possibly some of them left the Empire's military, to join the rebellion. And now what they're trying to do is just a bunch of average citizens, some criminals got together and are fighting the Empire. I think that's a stupid idea.
Really? I mean,
General Dodonna, was a military officer in the old Republic.
Right.
A lot of the officer, Wolf Yularen, was as well. He obviously stayed with the Empire. But I would have done that. I would have had a lot of I would have had a lot more military experienced people. But maybe the people who are making Star Wars right now don't really like that kind of people. So,
it's tough. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I always try to explain it to something to people like that, where it's just like, it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But I mean, it's hard to explain, really.
Yeah.
It's like,
it shouldn't be hard to explain, though. That's our problem.
Right.
Maybe it's just fans wanting too much. Maybe that's what it is. That's pushed us to this. Well, it's like, we're going to look we want to get too real with it, and we want to look too niche. But you said bright lights and glitz or something earlier. That's why we're all here. So where's it at?
We want the flash bang, and I think that's what the Mandalorian is all about, is the flash bang.
Well, yeah, and that's what I like that. And I seen like what is a picture of was that one of the actors from The Acolyte, or is that real?
Oh,
I saw.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that kind of stuff gets me pumped, man.
I mean, are you looking forward to anything that's coming down the pipeway, Kevin, at all, or you?
I'm really interested in Mandalorian. Bad Batch, I think, is great.
Okay.
Yep.
And as far as outside of Star Wars is Indiana Jones. That trailer that just came out this weekend. I saw it. Yes. I saw it while I was in Columbus, and I thought it looked great. But sometimes trailers can look great and the movie's not so good. But
right, I agree.
You have to think that Harrison Ford's not going to come on if the movie's terrible. I didn't think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was terrible. I think it had a few bad moments.
I didn't like it.
And those bad. You didn't like it.
Now he's on the Andor side. I'm on Kevin's side. I'm playing the middleman here.
No. It's just like I have friends who are just like fanatical about the Crystal Skull, but I can't. I kind of wonder if they love it like ironically, but they like.
I think it's no doubt about it. It's number 4 in the Indiana Jones movie.
Yes,
it's probably going to be number 5 after June. It had a lot of problems, but it was really cool to see Harrison Ford with the whip and stuff. And another interesting story, before I got into this business, I actually was on the set of that movie. And if you go to my Facebook page, I have a whole folder full of an album full of pictures from the set.
Whoa.
I walked up to the set and everyone was wearing like this pass right here for celebration.
Mm-hmm.
They were wearing those things around their neck, and I'm an artist, and I just took a picture of it and went home and created one myself. And the next day I was on the set, and you'll see pictures of me with Shia LaBeouf and stuff like that. So I actually got to see Harrison Ford acting out as Indiana Jones.
Jesus, Kevin.
So maybe for that reason I have a little bit of sentimental attachment to that movie. But they filmed it right. They filmed it right in Yale.
Oh no!
Indiana Jones's college scenes were all filmed at Yale.
Oh my god!
Oh, the cojones on this man. Oh, I would just die of an anxiety attack.
Because I did it, so I had my sunglasses partially covering it, and I'm like, I was like 32, 33 at the time, and I had a large briefcase that can hold like sketch cards and stuff, and not sketch cards, artwork and stuff, because I wanted to get their autographs on some like a blank piece of paper, and George Lucas's is right there on the wall from that set. And so I was just carrying it. So I almost looked like I belonged there.
Right.
And then it got to the point where what you say when you walk to the gate was, they go, "Are you with us?" And then I respond, "Yeah, I'm with you." that was every day.
Nah.
I did that for 3 days. It was a blast.
And they never caught you.
They never caught me. And this is before cell phones had really good cameras.
Right.
So I would take a camera like this size, and I'd hold it in a rag and take pictures with a little holding like that. And I want to say, for the record, I never released any of those pictures until after the movie came out.
Okay. Good.
Okay, I didn't make a Facebook photo album until after the movie came out. I didn't want to spoil it for anybody, and also I didn't want to get any legal trouble. Which I don't.
But you have a nice.
All right.
You have a nice documentation that you were there. You were there.
All right, and now I need to know the story. How did you get George Lucas's autograph? Now, how did that happen?
So
get a job.
They had
right.
In the middle of Yale, there's a place called the Quad, and it's like where a lot of classrooms are and a lot of dorms, and there's a post office box over there. But they had that cordoned off, and then down the street from that is a cafeteria,
mm-hmm.
and they had that cornered off. For filming, and they were filming between the two spots for the last day that I was there, and I was walking from one to the other, so I was on the regular street with just civilians and stuff outside the two filming sets, outside the closed sets, and as I was walking to the one set, George Lucas just walked right past me, and this was a month and a half after Celebration in LA, which was in 2007. That was the 30th anniversary of Star Wars. He didn't go to that. And he brought up a video saying, "We're all filming the new Indiana Jones movie." And then so everyone was sad they didn't see him. And then here I was a month later, he's walking down the street. So I turned around and followed him, and I had my little sketch pad that I was just telling you guys about, and I was taking it out. And this guy, and I'm a pretty big guy, but this guy who was bigger than me turned around and he's like, "No." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to start a fight in front of George Lucas with this guy just to get his autograph, but you can't stop me from following and walking."
Right.
That's what I did. I walked to him, and they went to the craft services, which is like where you on a movie set is where they have like all the food and lunch and stuff. And then with my pass, I was able to just walk right in. And then as Lucas was walking out, I kind of had this blank pad, and I was like, "Could you sign this?" Not a word out of his mouth. He just signed it and handed it back to me.
Wow.
And that was the first time I ever saw George Lucas, and he signed my thing.
Wow, that is awesome. Now that's how you end the show. I'll tell you.
No,
I was going to say
I met him several times after that. More professionally,
right?
At D23, I was backstage, and that was when I was kind of going up the ranks as far as like my job and stuff.
Right,
so
right.
At D23, I was able to meet him backstage and talk to him for a couple of minutes. Damn. And then I saw him at the 40th anniversary panel with Dennis Lawson, and we were talking about Dennis's character, and he almost killed Dennis Lawson. Because he was thinking about Luke being the only one to survive.
Oh, okay.
And he killed all the other ones. He's like, I should let one survive. So he let Dennis's character. Wedge survive.
Wedge Antilles. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well, hey, Kevin, this is amazing. Thank you very much. Promote. What do you advertise everything, anything? Like, what's the next convention you're planning to go
down in Nashville, Memorial Day weekend in May.
Okay.
And then San Antonio Superhero Car Show and Comic-Con in San Antonio in August.
Right.
Neither one of those shows have their guests yet, but it's still early because we're still in 2022.
Right.
And of course, NorseLegionStore.com, which is my website.
Get one of these cool coins. I got the Boba Fett one here. If I could show it.
Let's see. Wait.
Yeah. There.
I'll show off mine.
The Boba Fett.
Oh wow! Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm doing a convention until I see. No, I'm doing MegaCon in March. I'll be down in Florida. But
nice.
I'm around. On Facebook, Kevin Leill.
Yep, he's available for drinks, for cigars.
I am always available for drinks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. I really appreciate this and taking the time to come on to our show and talking all about the wars and everything you've done to put yourself into the Star Wars community and helping everyone celebrate their love for it. So I thank you very much for that. Take care and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks for listening. If you have any questions or suggestions, write to us at danandianpod@gmail.com or search Dan and Ian Have Questions podcast on Facebook. Intro music provided by Ian Savage. Music produced and recorded by Shaun Vanek at Mercenary Studios. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.